Hey guys, what is up? Welcome back to part two. Part two, before we took a break, we had the designers and the UX people work on solution sketching. Now we're going to wrap up day one, proceed with day 2, 3, and 4. And if you're just joining us right now, I'm going to introduce Albert Padin. He's out here from Cebu. He's got a company called Symph, and they do development. He's a Google developer expert. Google developer expert. He's also a design sprint master. All right, Albert, take it away. Come back on in here.
All right, so thank you, Chris. These are the solution sketches that they ended up with. And so before we move on to part 2, I just want to show that we go back to our checklist. So we have here a whiteboard. Let's move this. Okay, we turn this back around. All right, so ideally you have whiteboards enough whiteboards so you don't have to turn them around every now and then. But for this one, we have our whiteboard. So we went through all of these, right? So this is day 1. We have write down this checklist, which we did, thanks you to Chris. And then expert interviews and how might we's. We did long-term goals and sprint questions. We already did the map. There you go. And then we also did the solutions, or provided solutions by doing the lightning demos. That's done. 4-part sketching. So that's also done. So we did a note where they copied everything to load it into your brain so that you have enough brain memory loaded so that you can do your solution sketching. And then we had ideas, and then crazy 8s where you sketched out 8 different ideas in 8 minutes. Like that's an idea per minute. Quantity over quality. And then we are done with the solution sketch. Can you raise up your solution sketches, guys? All right, that's great. Now I have a question. Does your solution sketch have a name? It's important that it has a name, right? Sexy ChrisDo, whatever.
That's an excellent title, by the way.
Yeah. So put it there. Make sure it has a title. And then we're going to move on to day 2. So day 2 is about voting on solutions, right? So it's all about deciding. Day 2 is deciding what are we going to do, where are we headed, what are we going to build. All right. So now that you have your title, the first thing that we're going to do is called the Art Museum. So I'm going to turn around this this whiteboard just so that we have some space to put on. Ideally, again, you have your more surface so that you can tape things. And I'm going to ask you guys to take the blue tape and tape your solution sketch up here, right? So just tape. Yeah, please stand up. You can do it. All right, there you go. There's this blue painter's tape, okay? And then just, all right, I'm going to give you some, okay? And then just sort of tape them. They have to be eye level, all right? Yeah, not Ben's eye level, like sort of average eye level.
Perfect. Average height.
Okay, maybe you want to stick your, okay, well, there's not much wind here, so that's okay. All right.
Well, we did have lunch, so who knows? Somebody might break something.
All right, okay, so this is good. Okay, now just a caveat, the team here just spent 5 minutes doing this. Usually you're given more than that, like way more, like I think 30, 25 minutes. So these are the solution sketches. Now this is called the Art Museum because you are going to observe these artworks like you are in a museum. And what can't you do in an art museum?
No talking.
Exactly. You have to admire it in silence, right? So that's the important part, so that we don't influence anybody, we don't nudge people to like this. And then I'm gonna ask you to take the small dots. Where are the small dot stickers? Can you help me find them? They're somewhere here.
I'll find them.
Okay. Each of you take like a bunch of small dot stickers. You have unlimited small dot stickers. There you go. Okay. Now I just want you to use the red dots. All right. And if you want more, feel free to go. So as you are perusing our artwork over here, I want you to put red dot stickers to the parts of the solution that you like, you find interesting. You can put it on all if you want. You can, of course, put it on your own, as long as you put it on something that's interesting. Now, also with the Post-it, you can take note of something also that you find. Like if you want to add a note, you can also do that. Take a Post-it and then stick it to the part where you think you want to comment on. All right? So the only rule here is no talking. Everything is unlimited.
Same colored Post-it notes or some different colors?
Same color.
Okay.
All right.
You guys go for it.
So please go ahead. I will time this for 2, maybe 3 minutes.
3 minutes.
All right.
Very generous 3 minutes.
Very generous, yeah.
All right.
All right.
And thanks for hanging in there, everybody that has been watching the first part. This is the first time we've ever done a 2-part live stream, Albert. So
Woohoo!
I'm breaking new ground here.
Amazing.
Farai, asking how late am I? You were just on time for the second part.
Can he catch up? Like, how can he see the first part? Is he able to do that?
Yes, the first part I think is already up, so you guys can check that, and
Cool.
I'll find the link for you. Okay.
So yeah, what they're doing, just to recap, is they're putting these tiny red dot stickers. We have big stickers, which are for voting. These are for creating the heat map. So a heat map is to give us, the goal is to put stickers on the areas that most of the people here are liking, or they think is good, or we're surfacing the good ideas. So it's not necessarily on just one, but sort of like individually nitpicking, cherry picking the features and the components of the solutions that they like. One rule that they can't do here, or one rule here, is that they can't talk to each other, just like in an art museum. This is important so that they don't influence each other and be like, oh, that's nice, yeah, I think so too, let's put a sticker on it. So none of that stuff. They can also
Jen's
write.
breaking the rules. She's talking.
Why?
Sorry, how many dots?
Unlimited.
Unlimited.
So the question, she asked a question is how many dots? It's unlimited dots. Right. So the only rule here is no talking, that's all. And she broke that one. Oh my gosh.
Foul. Thomas is concerned about my voice. He says, drink some tea, Chris. What happened to your voice? I'm recovering from a cold, Thomas. Thank you for your concern.
Wow. He must have heard you so many times that he knows exactly how you sound like.
Well, I don't sound so good right now. I could tell.
Okay.
Yeah. But maybe, Thomas, you were there for part one. My voice is not that much degraded from part one.
Just a time check, guys. We have 1 more minute. Can you see them? That's very interesting. Like, they're very serious about this, right? This is quite amusing, actually, to watch.
I think when you said art museum, I didn't understand. Now I understand. It does feel like an art museum.
Yeah. I feel kind of out of place even talking, right?
Yeah.
So the design sprint here really leverages on techniques that have a collaboration element, but don't have that much sort of like interaction, so that people's best thoughts and ideas are really brought out and are allowed to surface up before they are sort of meshed with others, right? So for example, if we were discussing, very quickly we would converge. So this is more of like we're allowing diverging ideas first to come out and fully surface before we make the convergence and make decisions, which I think contributes to a lot of making the best ideas win. All right, guys, I think you have about 30 seconds, guys. Okay, thank you very much. You give yourselves a big round of applause. Okay, so we've done the art museum, we've done the heat maps. Now we're going to do the speed critique. Okay, so in the speed critique, I, the facilitator, will be just talking about this. So I'll be talking about this, and then I need a volunteer. Thank you. Okay. And you just basically note down everything. So in one post, it's okay. Just note down everything I say. Yeah, using the fine tip. Yeah. All right. So maybe we could just all come up over here. So it's usually better if it's like, just don't cover me or something. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. That's it, I guess. Just a little bit closer. Sorry. Usually in a design sprint, we're just talking to each other, right? But with this whole
Come
camera
closer to me,
setup,
but not so close.
yeah, don't block
You don't block
view.
his beauty light, guys. Come on.
All right. Okay. I love the title of this. It's the My Solutions sketch. All right? Just called My Solutions, very straightforward. So here you have scoring. So you have like pictures of people who are doing scoring over here, and then there's rate this beta tutorial. It got 1 red dot. So, And then we have here, over here, we have typography. So I guess this is a course. Show us what you learned after watch tutorial. So I think this is like they're watching a video and they're doing something, right? They have to take an interactive kind of activity. And then good versus bad project critique. So this is showing examples. All right. And there's a comment over here, structured feedback and iterative testing for courses. So structured feedback is, I think, the key here, like what they're showing here, over here, and this better tutorial. So I would call this like structured feedback solution. You want to say something?
No.
All right. So that's my solutions. The next one is on another note, on another post-it. We have the title here is satellites. Right? So that's the title, satellites. So there's something here that says create local future communities with satellite hubs for meetups, workshops, workspaces, critiques. Now, example, Toastmasters. So global community meetup, satellite locations. So you have future all around the world. Okay? Physical boot camps, different locations. So that's number one over here. Second over here, we have people meet at satellite hubs. 4, I think that's critique, learning, networking. So there's a cafe over here, and then there's future fans. And then now there's a lot of red dots over here. So what is this? They critique each other's work, host workshops, ask Chris and Ben for feedback. So hi Future Law, and then or all around world, they have Chris, and then they have, I don't know, maybe that's people over there, video recording. Okay, so the highlight here is that they critique each other's work, learnings, host workshops, and ask Chris and Ben for feedback. That's satellites. All right, on the third one here, we have Future University, okay, licensing in bulk. So we have here university ecosystem with instructors, right? So I'm guessing these are schools, these are list of instructors, and the available courses over here. So it's a new platform. So we have the instructor ecosystem, we have courses, top students, tasks to review. I think this is for the instructor side. And over here we have the student ecosystem, so maybe it's student view. And you have like your video over here, that's like the next thing you need to watch with your homework, next thing you need to do, and then other courses if you want to check those out. And then you have the admin ecosystem, which is there's a number of licenses that you have as part of your review, and then the instructors that you have, and then the completion rate of, I guess, your students. And then learn. So this one, the student ecosystem, splits up. You have the learn, do, and critique. So again, this is learn, do, critique. You have the video where you learn, you watch, right? There's chats, there's transcripts. So there's chat over here. There's also resources. And then you have do, so you have to upload stuff that you need to, it's like your homework, you're uploading your homework. And then critique is that the things that you need to review. And then and then your previous reviews. So this is it for Future University. Okay, so we can just get the notes and put them on top of each section. All right. So now, yeah, just on top. Okay. So that speed critique just basically like gets everybody sort of, if they weren't paying attention while doing the heat map, it goes to give a big overall, big picture idea, gets everybody on the same page to prepare for the straw poll. Okay, I don't know if a straw poll is basically like a poll, but it's fake. So it's just, you know, when you throw a bunch of straw up in the air, and it's just to know where the wind is blowing, right? So the straw poll is just it's not a real voting session, it's just to see where the wind is blowing, to give the decision maker an idea of where the wind is blowing. All right, so each one of you, for the straw poll, will get one big dot, all right? Just get one big dot, and I want you to write using this pen, your initial on it. All right, so you can put that down. I think you can actually also sit down now. Okay, so get one big dot, red dot, and put your initial on it. And for you, Chris, you put a star. Right. Okay. So then now what you do is you vote, you think about it. Well, usually you're given time to think, but this time we just go straight away and pick one idea that you think should be prototyped, right? You can vote on your idea, you can vote on another person's idea, but I'd like to actually add a twist here, right? I want you to decide right now already which one you'd vote for, right? So I'll give you 5 seconds to decide. Can you stand up? Right. Line up over here. Ben, come on up.
Let's go first.
No. There's actually something here. Okay. So, have you decided what to vote for? And I want the camera to focus on this, all right? Let's see. All right, so now that you've decided what to vote for, at a count of 3, I want you to stick it, all right? Ready? 1, 2, 3, go. Okay, thank you very much. No, not yet, but that's good. That's fine. Sorry, Chris.
It's okay.
So as a decision maker, that's the, what do you call this? This is like the super vote. So super vote is when you will actually, what do you call this? That will be the actual prototype. But before you decide on that, so let's imagine if he hasn't decided on it, each one of you actually gets to talk about for 1 minute on why you think this should be prototype. So it's almost like you're pleading your case to Chris before he puts in the final word, all right?
Ignore that.
So let's hide that thing over there, right there. That's okay. I think it's bothering Chris's design.
It's bothering me.
Yeah, I could see his face. It's like, I don't know.
have a much more elegant solution. Just slide it over.
Oh, perfect. Yeah. Good
Never
design.
happened.
Great. So, okay, Julia,
Okay.
go first. You have 1 minute.
Okay. So the reason why I chose Future University, it was laid out in a wireframe that I was able to understand, and I was able to see the vision.
Right. And then you can explain how it relates to the sprint questions, keeping in mind the sprint question and the long-term goal, and why do you think this is the one you should prototype.
Can you start with question 1?
So the question is, what was that? That's why you have to keep it visible, right?
Yeah, I don't remember it.
So it's, can we address different learning styles?
Yes.
You want, how, right? Yeah.
I think that this template is set up where it can, how do I say it? I mean, I actually may not be the right person to speak at the moment. I'm still collecting my thoughts. I'm new to the sprint.
It's
but
okay, you have like 10 seconds left. You
Okay.
just need to hold the mic for 10 more seconds.
good wireframe that fits everything.
Okay, saved by the bell, Julia. All right, thank you so much. How about you, Jen? So we'll set it at 1 minute. So which one did you vote for?
So I voted for the satellites.
Okay, satellites, go ahead.
The reason is because I feel like Future already has a global community that they can leverage. I also feel like by doing this, you can kind of, so I'm from Art Center, and Art Center has a system where students learn from each other. Also, networking is a huge component in becoming a successful designer. So I was thinking of ways to replicate that, but online and not at a school.
Cool. Ben?
All right. So I voted for the Future University. Our goal, 2-year goal, is to get into universities so that they are teaching our content. And we also need to accommodate multiple learning styles. So one of the biggest requests that we get is for reviews and critiques. And it's very difficult to scale as the future while we're doing all these reviews and critiques. And so by combining those 2 requests into providing a platform for the university instructors to do the critiques for you, you can have the best of both worlds here. You can also address multiple learning styles by video, transcripts, and then doing, so uploading homework that you've already done. That's it.
Cool. Thank you. All right, back to you, Chris. Now you have some time supposedly to think about it, but now, think about it. And
Thinking.
you got one vote over here with a star. Okay, maybe you should draw the star.
Okay.
Because mine would not be a very good star.
That's okay.
Okay, and then that's your straw poll. Now we go to the super vote.
Super Bowl.
So after the designer has listened to every pitch, you
Yeah.
have to make a decision. And you have to take that voting dot and decide what are you going to prototype.
Okay, first I want to say you guys did an excellent job of articulating ideas, and I liked how, Jen, you were relating your experience at Art Center and how we can replicate that by using satellite programs. And there's an overlap there with the university stuff that Ben was talking about. And based on that, I think he's right, and I have some ideas now already as to how we can solve this problem. So that would be for my vote then.
Cool. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
Give yourselves a round of applause. Now this basically is now the idea, the solution sketch that will get prototyped. All right. So now we move from. So now we've done this basically. We've just covered it. So we've done art museum, we've done heat maps, we've done speed critique, we've done straw poll, we've done super vote, and now we go to the storyboard. All right. So in the storyboard, we need to take this experience and see how are we going to test this. All right. How are we going to test if this works? We're going to bring in 5 people, right? And they're going to try out something that looks something like this. What is the flow that they're going to do, right? So we're going to, each of you has to write down 6 steps, basically. So six steps. So you have to take 6 Post-its and then just line it up, I think, over here. Just line up on your table, I think, for now, where you take 6 steps and write down like the step of each, what do you call this? Where it takes a user from the beginning towards the end. All right? In 6 steps. And each step is like a press, a click, right? A tap, if it's in mobile.
One action.
Yeah, one action.
One action.
All right? So you have to have the whole flow in 6 steps.
Which user?
So you have to decide, right? So ideally you have the user map, right? So in the user map, it's like the career, what do you call this? Career shifters,
Right.
right? So I would say these are the flow of the student.
Okay.
Sure.
Can the actions be broader than that? Like, can we design a system rather than an interface?
Like an example.
Like instead of a product, kind of looking at the end-to-end system, like how the student gets in contact with the future university, and then just.
Yes, if it's like a tap or an action, but if it's something like they have to pick up a phone and dial and get somebody to answer, maybe. But if you have to fit up in 6 steps,
Okay.
right? So dial a number, talk to the person, say yes or no. That's valid. Because we can also simulate that, actually. You can test it out.
Oh, okay.
Right. Cool. So the goal is to basically get 6 steps. Maybe, 6 steps is the
6 steps, guys.
6 steps. Makes it very easy. So usually storyboarding takes like almost the whole day. It takes actually really long. But this hack by AJ&Smart brings it down to like less than an hour, maybe even just an hour. So, but for you guys, put down 6 Post-it notes over here and write the flow from beginning to end. So each Post-it is an action. So think about it like, each Post-it is an action.
Right. So I just want to say some things to people who are joining us now. They weren't aware of this, and granted, this was assembled a little bit last minute. I knew Albert was going to be here, but the format and structure I didn't know. First I thought we were just going to have a conversation, and then we went full workshop mode. So you guys, fear not. You can always go back and watch the live stream that we just did earlier this morning. You get caught up to speed. But I would encourage you not to do that right now, because then you won't be able to participate live at any point in time. That's the power of video. You guys can check that out in a little bit. But right now, stay with us, stay here,
Right.
and watch how we go through this process. So, Albert, you asked everybody to assign like basically 1 Post-it note per action or step.
Right.
Why that?
So the goal here is to make a storyboard, right? In the storyboard, it's the framework or the foundation for your prototype. And in your prototype, you're trying to get the user from the beginning of your basically your story, your entry point, into like the end goal, right?
Okay.
And sometimes storyboarding, usually storyboarding can take a long time, right? Because it's very open-ended. So this structure of forcing people to just write 6 steps from beginning to end makes it much faster.
Yeah. So the idea that we're all working on right now is the university ecosystem, how to integrate
Right.
our content into the classroom, right?
Right.
And how to address different learning types with the goal of helping people get a job. I think that's kind of where we're at.
Right.
So now we're targeting towards universities and students in school.
Okay.
So I think a case, because maybe Jen is thinking about this, she's a little stuck. It's like, well, maybe the first thing is to log into a portal.
Right.
You know, log in.
Yeah.
Would that be right?
So that's good. So what? So that's correct, actually. But we try to, as facilitators, we don't usually like give suggestions at this point, because when you give suggestions, then everybody just does a login, and then you don't.
Yeah.
Because at some point we want to take this diversity of ideas and then sort of converge that. So we're okay
Right.
with diverging. So the best way that I would say it to you guys is that, hey, just take the user from an entry point where you think that they end up on the Futur website somehow, or the Futur. This is a website, right?
Yep.
Yeah, the Futur website somehow. And then when they end up there, what are the next 6 steps that they do to finish the whole process?
Right. I'm doing that because it's in case people are watching this, they don't have the benefit of having
Correct.
these kinds of conversations. So I always appreciate you pointing out, like, as a facilitator, this is not what you're supposed to do because it does X, Y, and Z.
But we will tell you as a secret, right?
Yes, this is a secret. So we're not trying to prejudice people and influence them unnecessarily.
Right.
So this is very fascinating. So while they're doing that thing, maybe you and I just take a moment
Sure.
and talk about this. I find this process, this design sprint, really great because it doesn't put too much pressure on the facilitator. You use the framework, you give some rules, and you just keep people
You have a
moving
checklist.
along. You have a checklist. Everything works out pretty great. So that means that if you're, let's say you're nervous speaking in front of people, well, you don't have to do that much talking. Maybe you don't have all the best ideas ready to go, and that's great because it's not up to you to come up with ideas. It's for you to create space
Exactly.
for other people to come up with ideas and then just guide them along the process.
Right.
Now, this is a little bit different than the facilitation and the strategy workshops that we run because the facilitator actually has to play a pretty active role in managing energy, redirecting people, and sometimes they have to be able to be the super vote.
Right.
It's like, okay, I see we're stuck here, you guys. We have to move on.
Yeah.
Can we move with this or not?
Yeah.
So there's a much more active role. So I like seeing this very different style and process.
Right.
So in case you guys are watching, many of you guys have used or purchased the core system or know about it through our website. Just keep an open mind. Let's look at this and then let's not make any decisions as to what way is better or worse, okay? I'm just interested in learning, and thank
Right.
you for doing this.
Chris, I want to also point it out. Let me tell you the difference from my perspective. So, for example, when you do strategy, you are the expert, right? So that's why you sort of are like a very strong kind of decision maker, right? In the design sprint, the facilitator is not an expert in the problem domain, right? It's the participants, it's the decision maker and the crowd. So the goal of the facilitator is to bring out the knowledge of the whole team into the table, expose it, load it into everybody else's brains so that they can come up with the best ideas and put a structure in place so that they can vote on these and make the best ideas basically win.
Fantastic. Okay,
Cool.
let's check the time.
Yeah, I didn't actually put a timer, so let's last 2 minutes, guys.
Last 2 minutes.
Maybe you can put also just a description on like what it. Oh, okay, so you put a circle. Okay. So you can just label what this is actually.
So random question while we have the final 2 minutes to work on this. Trails is asking, hey, how does he get a hold of the bird sticker, the Chris bird sticker? And what is the name of the bird? Did you come up with a name for the bird?
There,
Not yet.
I'm sure my team came up with a name. We ran a decision jam on it, but this is the sexy Chris though.
Bird.
The bird, yeah.
Because I'm the sexy Chris now.
The ChrisDo bird.
Yeah. All right. How do they get it? How do they get it?
So this is limited edition. They can send us a message in symph.co or our Facebook page, SymphCo,
Okay.
and we'll figure something out to send to them.
Perfect. So go to the Facebook page, Symph.
Facebook.com/SymphCo.
SymphCo.
Right.
Or go to symph.co.
Yeah,
and
which probably
message
has a
them.
link to our Facebook page.
Yeah.
Cool.
Send a self-addressed stamped envelope to
That would be better.
with $1. No, Ben. No. Ben had a suggestion for the type of bird it is. He called it the dodo, but no. We're not calling it the dodo. Ben, that was too
That's
easy. Come
actually
on.
pretty good.
No, it's terrible. Go back to the lightning decision jam and stick with what you came up with. It's terrible. It's a terrible joke. It's a terrible name.
All right, guys, probably like 1 minute left.
Is the dodo bird an idiot?
It's,
That's why. They're like, don't be a dodo bird. Because it wasn't smart enough to evolve or whatever it was.
yeah, it wasn't smart enough to evolve, huh? That's very unlike you, right?
Yes.
You're like changing all the time.
I'm evolving, yes. I'll be here like the cockroaches.
Okay, time's up, guys. Now, each one of you just go up here and then flow it in a series, like, but one by one. Sorry, I'll get Ben first. So lay it out like this. Tuck, 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 tuck. So
Left to right. Using
left
words.
to right, like
Yeah.
the way you eat. So,
All right.
And the way you read.
All right.
So while Ben's doing that, Jesper is saying, I'm an architecture student and I find this super interesting, great content.
Cool. Thank you. I'm happy to know that you guys are finding this valuable.
And Self-Tube, I think you might know this person, says, send my regards to Albert. Nice
Who's it?
shirt, Bert.
Oh, I know. Shout out to
Yes.
Steph Mayol.
Mayo?
Koi, yeah.
Koi.
He's a very good designer.
Salamat.
Okay, so Ben, sorry Ben, I need you to just say out your steps out loud, the rest of the team.
Microphone down.
All right, I cheated a little bit.
Cheater.
So they're going to fill out the form and click login.
Get in there. Get in closer.
Yeah, just point it out.
Right? They're going to fill out the form, click login. This is a student. They're going to view their dashboard and then click next lecture. They're going to watch that lecture and then click homework to get their assignment. They're going to log out and do their homework. Then about a week later, they'll log in and then click homework from the dashboard, click upload, and upload their file.
Thank you. All right, Julia, up next. Pass the mic.
Oh, she's good.
All right, just stick it for now.
Okay.
Do you have another question? What?
No other questions. Everybody's concerned about my voice. You guys, I'm all right. I'm a trooper. Don't worry. Come hell or high water, I'm here, man. They're like, call in a sick day, Chris. That's not how this works. Ready?
Yeah. So I ran out of time. I only was able to do 4, but what I envisioned the user would be doing was they would be on the homepage on a mobile. They would go on the course, and after reading like a summary of the course, they would press buy, and then when they do that, there's something in the cart. They can go back to look at other courses or look at recommended courses. Theoretically, they would also buy and then go to the cart and then check out.
Okay, so let's just write that down. Like,
I can write it for you.
okay, so go to the cart and then check out. All right, Jen. Thank you, Julia.
Yeah.
All right, Jen, as you put it up, just say it one by one. So you say it and then put it up.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
There you go.
Oh, I can hold the microphone for you actually.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
So,
So the student selects a skill that they want to improve at from a list.
oh, hold on. So you say it in front of there and then you stick it, all right?
Okay. So, and then they see an educational path and a list of resources that they have access to, such as one-on-one help, group critique. They select a path. Say that they watch a video lecture. And then they struggle with an assignment and select a recommended resource from a list.
They struggle. Okay, that's part of it. Like, I have to struggle. All right, go.
And then they purchase or they get access to the resource.
Okay, thank you. All right, so now we move on to the voting. So in the voting, each of you gets 1 or 2. Let me check. You get 1 voting dot, all right? So, and decider gets 2, and you vote on the top flow. So you just put it here, right? The reason why decider gets 2 is because you can put in, I like this, but I also like this part. So you can do that, all right? But the rest, everybody else gets only 1 vote. All right, go ahead, stick it on your favorite flow. What do you think we should prototype, and what you feel represents best the sprint question that we're trying to achieve? Which is, what was that? Can we address different learning styles? All right. All right, I'll give you like 5 seconds to vote. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Just 1. In real life, I mean, in the real sprint, they have about 5 minutes to vote. So Chris, you can come here and then just,
Yeah, sorry, I was reading comments, so I need to reread some of these things.
okay.
Okay, so I vote on the top level,
Sure.
and then I vote on a sub thing?
Yeah, if you want to.
Well, so I'm voting on the top level to see it all the way through?
Okay.
Is that right? Is that what I'm doing?
Yes. Or you can sort of explain like, okay, only up to here and then the others over here.
Oh, I see, okay.
But we're limited to sort of 6.
Okay, this is very similar. They're all very similar. It's like login and buy, so there's a lot of differentiation there. So I assume if we had more time, there would be very different paths created here, right?
Right.
So I'm going to say a couple of things. One is this is just a process of going to a cart and checking out, so there's not much for me to vote on. This isn't that different, except for it includes a struggle part to it, as far as I can tell. So, I mean, they're all very, very similar to me. So I will vote for this. Do I put it on the thing?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then,
Okay.
where is it? So it all makes a lot of sense to me. Maybe
Okay, you
there's-
can pick one.
Maybe I'll just add a dot
All right.
here. Okay.
All right.
All right.
Okay, so now we have 3 votes over here. So this basically becomes our winning flow. All right. So now very quickly we have our storyboard. So our storyboard is composed of 6 screens, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I'd like to include like an intro screen, like you put in like where do they get into the login form, like before like Facebook or something. We call this like the entry point where they're like sort of browsing Facebook, they see an ad for the Future University or something like that. They click on it, or they're in the YouTube page of the Future. They have a big button there that says go check out the Future University, and they click that. So that's sort of like your intro, all right? And then your whole flow starts here. So now we just take these and we put them here. All right. Now we have our storyboard. Ta-da!
Ta-da, magical. Right. So I have a couple of questions.
Yeah.
Since there wasn't enough time to work this out, there probably will be features and functions or other things that you might want to pull from a different timeline, right?
Right.
Because literally you transferred from this giant sausage you drew and over to the 6 or 7
Right.
keyframes here.
Right.
Right?
Yeah. So what happens here in the prototype is then we hash out the details. We hash out the details of each one over here, and then sort of like which buttons are pressable, which will take them to the next flow. So that's basically it. Right. Okay. So that's storyboarding. And then what you would do it if we have more time is we would like write down all the details, and then so you now have something to work out with the prototype. So guys, I will show
Wow.
you. We have now checked user test flow and storyboarding. Round of applause, please, guys.
All right.
Now we are missing a lot of the details in here, but we have done every single exercise over here and just sort of like hacked our way through it.
Yeah.
Right? Now some of them you felt like, oh, I'm really loving this, like the Crazy 8. Some of them were like super rushed. I wasn't able to get any value out of it. And that's because in the real thing, like we have more time, right? But just for the sake of the workshop, we are doing this in a very high speed manner. We are compressing 4 days into 2 hours.
Yeah. Amazing.
Okay.
Farai saying, loving this, so much knowledge gaining, exclamation, exclamation, exclamation.
Amazing. Okay, so now we move on to prototyping. So prototyping, I will just talk about this. We're not going to do actual prototypes, right? So this is the part where now I just do a sort of like a talk, right, and explain like how this works. So in prototyping, we take the storyboard and we fill out the fill out form, click login, all these things. We turn them into actual like designs, right?
Did you do wireframes or you go straight into prototyping?
It has to be believable. It has to be a
I see.
prototype that it's not like a mock-up that's, no, not a wireframe, definitely not a wireframe. It has to be like when we bring in the test user, they think that it's actually like a site, like a real site that probably exists.
So it's pretty high fidelity then.
Yes, it's high fidelity, doesn't have to be very polished.
Yeah.
But so the way we do this is we use tools like Envision, we use tools like Keynote, even like with the hotspots and the buttons. So you design, put it in Keynote, put the hotspot on the button. That also, you can also do it in Envision. For mobile, we use a tool called Flinto. So if it's a mobile app, and those are the prototyping tools. The goal basically here is to create a high fidelity prototype, or maybe I would say mid fidelity prototype of this, something that's believable in a flow that you can finish in a day, right? You only have 1 day to prototype this out. So other things, for example, like if this is like a website flow, so this is pretty easy to prototype. Sometimes there are sprints that are trying to solve the question, or they solve the question that's asking something like, hey, we're building a robot. So it's talked about in the book, actually. We're building a robot, and we can't decide what face will the robot's face look like. Will it have a smiley? Will the user be freaked out if it starts talking? It's supposed to deliver a toothbrush in a hotel room. But when it does that, will it smile? Will it dance? So how do you test that out? So what they did is they just did a remote control kind of thing, and they simulated all those actions and recorded the outcomes. Another technique is we call it the Wizard of Oz, right? For example, you guys know Slack. It's like a chat application for teams. So if they did a sprint thing for the onboarding process, right? So in Slack, they have an onboarding process. You come in. So you notice that the Slack bot like talks to you, right? It moves you through the process. Now, in order to test that, what they did is they tested out the bot with a test subject, but instead of having the bot, like they built out the actual bot, no, they didn't. They just had a person actually type the response and simulate the bot. So they're just copy pasting the canned responses and sending that. So it's something that they can build in a day. So the goal of the prototype is build something believable and do a Wizard of Oz thing that you can simulate something believable within a day, right? Don't code any HTML, CSS, any functionality. Don't do that. Just focus on the front end per se.
Yeah, you're creating a facade. It doesn't
Yeah.
actually need to work.
Right. Yeah. Well, it has to work in the sense that when you press it, it moves to the next screen.
Sure.
That's it. Right? Okay. So when they press buy, there's no credit card involved and stuff. Okay. So that's prototyping. You guys have any questions?
No, some questions inevitably come up though. What tools do you like to use to prototype?
Yeah, so we use that InVision, Flinto, and Keynote actually.
Keynote. How do
Yeah.
you use Keynote?
So we put the design onto the Keynote and we run it in kiosk mode. So it's like percent, but in kiosk, and then it's like, so it removes all the other sides.
I see. So
And-
there are hyperlinks to other slides.
Yes.
Got it.
So it's very easy to create a lot of other stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then the beauty about it is not everybody knows InVision and can use InVision, right? And so,
Right.
but a lot of people already know Keynote. You can even use PowerPoint. Like,
Very good.
okay. So that's prototyping. So imagine we just did that. We finished day 3. We spent the whole day. We're so like, we just redid all of it. You guys did a great job. Give yourselves a big round of applause. Woohoo! We are done with day 3. Clear.
We're flying
safe.
through this.
We are now doing day 4. So day 4, what is day 4? Day 4 is user testing. Now there's the idea here is that in the beginning you've already like put out an ad, okay? That's asking people to come in. So you are targeting specific kind of people. Ideally, they don't know you. Ideally, like you don't know them either. So they just come in. You promise them a gift certificate, saying, "Hey, we just want to test something out. We just need like an hour of your time," and you schedule them. So the way we do this, and I need some space over here. Okay, maybe this is good. So what we do is, so Chris, please forgive my lines. But basically,
Forgive
we
me.
have, like, for example, we have a guy named, give me a name.
Joe.
Joe. So Joe is scheduled for 10 a.m., all right? And give me another name.
Mary.
Mary at 10:30, okay? So now we have that, and so we have a schedule, and then we set up a room. This is the setup. We have one room where we set up the user testing area, right? And then it will have one person from the team called the interviewer. So in this case, we might elect you to do the interview, right? But the rest of the team will be in a separate room, okay? In a separate room, why? So that they're not influencing anything, right? And then the user test the test subject doesn't feel like, being overwhelmed by so many people watching them. So you kind of have to observe without disturbing, without being there. So what we do is we set up cameras, all right? So what we do is we have the Google Hangouts webcam on, so you can see the person's face. It's streaming to another computer in another room. So we're hearing and we're seeing this person's face. We have a camera that's pointing down to the keyboard. I mean, depends on what you're looking at, right? So for us, we want to look at where they are moving, and then we're also sharing the screen. So we have 3 monitors. That's basically looking at the user test subject, their facial reactions, and then the keyboard, and then the screen. So then on the other room, the rest of the team is basically looking at all the key parts of the user test. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay.
So you're setting up the cameras to see what they see,
Right.
to see their reaction,
Yes.
to see what they're doing.
Right.
Yeah.
Correct. Now the goal of the interviewer is to guide them through the process, but in a way that's not leading, but more of like they're just being like, okay, now that you see this, what do you think is the next step? Tell us walk me through like what's in your mind right now. Tell me what's in your mind. What do you feel like the next step should be, right? So what is key here, and I will put one more stuff here. So for example, one more column, okay? Okay, I'm just gonna connect this one over here. And then here, we will add sections where we say, this one is, we will put here, for example, concept. Okay, in terms of concept, sorry, my type is off, but in terms of concept, like what do you feel that Joe got and Mary got? Did they get the overall concept? Did they understand the concept? In terms of, so you have concept, you have a specific feature that we wanted. So view dashboard and click next lecture. So the next lecture, like is this something that the user understands or wants to click? Do homework after logging out a week or so. Homework. So we have homework. Like how does the user feel about that? What's the reactions there? And click homework, click upload. Uploading a file. So upload file. All right. And then it's important to also put others. Okay. All right. So now what we do, as we're watching things happening, right? So we're watching the screen in the other room, and Chris is like walking the test subject through the interview. We're taking notes. And so this is where the multicolored Post-it notes come in. All right? So you have this dark red. I think there's a red somewhere here.
There's another
Just purple.
Yep.
Okay, this one. This one's better. So you have the dark red and you have the normal. You can have green for good. But basically they stand for bad. Bad for you. It's like the person didn't get it, was stuck, didn't understand, or they did something that you totally did not expect and isn't really great. And this is good. Like, oh, they understood it. It was clear. Felt really good about it, right? So for each person, you're going to write just one Post-it note, and you put all your notes about that person, per person, right? And then just add if you have something. The mistake that I did before was that I told my team that, in one of the sprints that I mentioned a while ago, is that we ran a sprint, and then I told my team, like, every time you think of something, write it down and put it there. We ended up with like 200 Post-it notes. And it was so hard to like consolidate and just categorize, and we were so overwhelmed. We were very tired. It's the end of the 5-day sprint. We used to do 5 days. And it was just so difficult. So now, just keep it in one Post-it notes. Of course, if you need two, okay, fine. All right? So what we would do, for example, is we were watching Chris do an interview, and he's walking through, and the person did not understand the purpose of the homework, right? So we just put homework, for example, homework, and then we can put sad face or didn't like homework, right?
You want to write more like unclear?
Right, or you could be like unclear. Or if you're doing the interview, you can ask them like, well, what are you thinking about this? And they can talk about like, oh, didn't like, I don't like homework, I hate homework, I don't believe in homework, we should not have homework.
I didn't realize it was clickable or something.
Right, could
Anything.
be like that, yeah. So then you put it there, right? Not clickable, didn't realize it was clickable. But if you have good feedback, then you put it there. So this is happening on this room, on the other room, and the user testing is happening in another room. And then you just do it on 5, right? What this gives you at the end is a series of good and bad feedback, which will now basically give you an idea of what features are working and what features that people are not really getting. And after you have like 3 in a row or 3 out of 5, it's pretty clear already that something's wrong with that. So in 4 days, you have an idea that you brought out, and in just 4 days, you already have an idea that's been validated or been verified that you need to kind of like improve it or change it a little bit.
So I have a question.
Sure.
Why wouldn't you have a column for each of the 6 steps?
Right.
Why only pick 4 or 5?
So you can actually make the categories that you want here, right? So one is like usually like overall concept. Like, did they get the overall concept? Did they know? And then for others here, like we put in other category is because they may have other comments. For example, you can ask them at the end of the interview, like, okay, thank you so much for your time. What do you think this product should have that would make it super duper awesome for your community?
Right.
Right?
Okay.
And then they can start talking about that, and you can note that down over here, right? Cool.
Perfect.
Okay, so we're done with user testing.
Check it off.
All right, so basically, guys, we've gone from day 1, defining the problem, day 1, producing solutions, day 2, voting on the solutions, deciding, day 3, prototyping, and which we just pretended that we did, and day 4, we got user testing. So we went from idea, a problem, idea, to solution, to testing and validating it in 4 days. So this is what I really think is really amazing about the design sprint. If you just, it's a methodology that anybody can follow. As you said, Chris, a while ago, the facilitator doesn't have to expend so much energy, right, so much brain power. It's really just facilitating them through the process, through the steps, keeping the time, you know, encouraging the participants a little bit, right, making sure they don't bring in their phones into the room, and make sure that they're focused, and then feed them. Actually, that's part of the sprint. It talks a lot about food and feeding people, timing the breaks so that there's a bio break. So if you go into the book, it talks a lot actually about this in detail, like how many minutes on each step, even the break, right? Even the how many minutes for talking, how many minutes for voting, and stuff like that. So even like if a request for extension, how much can you go? It gives you scenarios as well, like if the decision maker can't be there for the full days, like what do you do and how would you do it? Right.
Fantastic.
Cool.
So I got a couple of questions
Sure.
for you. One is, what if you go through the user testing
Right.
and at the end of the day you realize, oh my God, we messed that one up somehow.
Right.
You got to start the sprint over again?
Well, you could, right? Unless you don't know what you're going to do next, right? So you need, but let's take a step back here, right? Let's take a step back and let's appreciate the fact that you just spent 4 days and got validation right away that this is not going to work. That is valuable because you could have spent 2 months building this out, right? Before you knew that it was not going to fly. And you would have wasted 2 months. So now, if you find out after 4 days that this was not going to work, right? Then you can just take a break one day. Next week, come back refreshed and run another sprint, and that's just still 2 weeks. And you might end up with something that would work, and then you can then build it out for the next 2 months, and now that's going to have a lesser risk of failing.
Do you carry any of the learnings and discoveries into the next sprint? Or
Oh,
do you just kind of
definitely.
start clean?
Yeah. So, I mean, the experts always bring in, right? The experts always bring in the knowledge that they currently know, whether that's from a previous sprint or just for knowledge or know-how. What's important is that in the define the problem part of interviewing, this is actually a lot of time. We did this in a rush over here, but it's actually a lot of time, and this brings out the brain dump into the boards so that everybody in the team is now on the same page, right? And before you move on to all the solution.
Makes sense. Okay.
Cool.
Here's a question from Antonio. He's like,
Hi, Antonio.
I like the design sprint, but I'm wondering in what situations would you suggest to use it? I see the value, but it feels like too much homework. What are your thoughts?
So the way I'm thinking, right, is like, I always think about exercise, right? If you want to do, I see the value of getting a professional fitness coach and go through this program, and then, I'd be like The Rock. Maybe not like The Rock, somebody like, just, I don't know, Chris Pratt. I don't know, what's a good body, right? Like, something like that. But I always think maybe I'll just do 10 push-ups a day and that'll be enough, right? If I just do 10 push-ups, I get some value out of it, but I'm not really going to end up with like, sort of like a really fit body. So there are programs out there that if you just follow step by step, they sort of guarantee you the big chance that you're going to get the results that you want. Now, if you're going to get the results that you want, you need to put in the requirement, right? So for example, if what I'm hearing is basically like, okay, I want to get here, but I don't want to put in the required work. So what you need to do is you need to get here, and we're saying, okay, this is what needs to be done. You need to do it in order to get there, unless you find another way that can do the same thing with the same effect. Right? So what we're saying with the design sprint is that this has been used by companies, it's been used in Google, it's been invented by Knapp in Google, modified by AJ&Smart, but they've run so many of these things, and they guarantee that at the end, you have the best ideas being tested right away, and you get immediate feedback. And in 4 days, that is super fast, right? That's super fast. It is a lot of work, but when you're actually doing it right, it's actually accelerating. Yeah.
Yeah, so what he's asking for is, it sounds like a lot of work. Well, let me present to you the alternative to doing something like this, which is to go through and spend weeks doing research, which is pretty typical for UX stuff, and then to work on some ideas and then present those ideas and then get buy-in from some people, then build out a prototype, and only to find out the key decision maker wasn't there, isn't bought in, you start over again. And that's
Right.
a lot more frustrating than it is just to do a sprint. This is already considered the shortcut, guys, so there's no more shortcut to the shortcuts. Now, I will say this, Antonio, and everybody else that's watching this, if you've not worked with clients before, not had this process happen to you, well, by all means, continue to do it your way, right? But
Yeah.
seeing how Google has figured out a few things and written a book and codified this entire thing, and it's been revamped with version 2.0, like, people have tested this stuff already, and it works, and it can help you in your business, whether you're doing this for products in the UX space or maybe for architecture. Anything that you need to test an idea on and to validate, this process should work for you.
Excellent. Well said.
You can hire me every time somebody asks that question.
Yeah.
Okay, so I got a couple more questions here.
Sure.
Sir Waste a Lot.
What?
Sir Waste a Lot asks, I feel like it makes a lot of sense to restrict the client involvement to just 2 days, but why not take longer on the prototype?
So why would you take longer on the prototype, I guess is the question, right? So why not? What do you think? So there's this saying that every project fills up the time allotted to it. So if we allot 1 day to it, it'll be finished in a day. If you allot 2 days to it, it'll be finished in about 2 days with about the same amount of like, what do you call this? Like output and outcome. So what we do is we try to really squeeze that in to keep people focused, and the results of that will be, if you spend 2 days, will be marginal, right? Because you're using prototype to test something, to testify. So you have to be focused on just doing it. And why not spend more time on prototype? This has been done like many times, hundreds of times, and it's possible to get a prototype out in a day. Even like with the robotics, like you have a robot just doing like Wizard of Oz stuff, remote control. Because the goal here is not to build something. In fact, that's the goal of design sprint. It's like not to build something. It's to find out first if this is going to work before we actually build it out, right? So if you're going to sort of spend more time on it, it's kind of like you're defeating the purpose of why we're doing this in the first place. So yeah, spend less time on the prototype. Let's just finish it so that we can test, and then we can decide if it works. Then let's spend a lot of time, invest more time in building and hashing it out. I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, 100%. I think the idea is, okay, so I'm going to get up for this because
Sure.
I see the camera's on me. I think the idea here, guys, is that design culture specifically, or especially, is obsessed with details. So we don't want to show anything to anybody until
Right.
it's perfect.
Right.
And that's part of why we need to change this dialogue around design. I think if you can involve your client in the process and have them be collaborators and get buy-in from key stakeholders, this is going to save all the endless revisions and the burnout that you're going to get inevitably. So I think a lot of designers have this mindset, this belief that if I just make it perfect enough, I'll present it to them and there will be no comments and it'll be approved 100%. But in the real world, that's like you being an artist and not being a problem solver, and you're not collaborating at all. So I think that's even a foolish dream to chase, even if it were real. Because you should just go make art then, I think.
Yeah, and it also hurts a lot, right? You put a lot of work into something and then it gets
Yeah.
rejected. That's very painful, right? At least with this, like you have people's ideas together, collaboration. It's
Yeah.
hard to reject something that you created together.
So you just reminded me of a concept. It's called sunk loss bias. Sunk loss bias. That means the more time you spend on something, the more you feel like you have to recuperate what you got out of it. So if you spend weeks and weeks building the prototype, when you go to user testing and they tell you this
It has
isn't
to
working,
work.
they're like, wrong users, wrong, they don't know anything, it's going to work, it's fine, it's perfect. But if you only spend 2 days on a sprint to get a prototype, a minimum viable product done,
One
at
day
least 1 day to get an MVP done, you've not invested too much time. So right now you're open to all kinds of ideas.
Right.
And it could be that the 7th iteration of the design sprint that you hit your eureka moment, that you change the game forever.
Right.
And that's what we're looking for.
Sure.
All right. I think we're almost done here. I think I need
Yeah.
to send us on our way out.
Sure.
Okay, so once again, guys, if you're tuning in, and if you want to reach out and contact Albert, you can reach him at symph.co.
Right.
And you can also find him on Facebook, Symph Co. on Facebook, right?
Right.
And you're based out of Cebu,
Yes, Cebu, Philippines.
and you are a master, wait, I was going to say master debater. No, you're not that. You're a Google developer expert,
yeah.
and also design sprint master. Sorry, guys, I hurt your ears. All right, okay. Okay, guys, I think that's it for me. And on behalf of everybody on the crew, and Julia, and Jen, and Erica, I thank you for watching this. If you haven't done so already, go check out part 1 and then finish up this thing. I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.
Nice one. High five.
High five. Luckily, we did that right. We could have Asian high fived and just jacked that up. That could have been really bad, but luckily we didn't. Are we clear? Not yet. We're going to keep talking.
Really?